Today is the day that everyone around the internet is trying to take action or stand up for net neutrality because it is at serious risk. In the next week or so, we're going to see what happens here, whether the entire Protection Act is repealed or if it's left in place or at least renewed. And this becomes an issue for a couple reasons. Now, there are purportedly pros or cons anyway to net neutrality being in place. I will explain those to you, and then I'll kind of talk about my opinion for the entire thing. And if you agree with me, I'll show you how you can help make a difference, because if we all do stand together and you're for net neutrality, we can make a difference for this. Now, it's going to be tough because, well, right now the current chairman has pretty much the votes and can push this through. In fact, he's vowed to do this, like this is going to happen in his mind. However, this is not the first time something has threatened the internet. Remember SOPA back in 2012 when we had internet blackouts everywhere by major sites? Well, apparently lawmakers had their phones blown up to the point where they couldn't do anything else. So guess what? It was dropped. We've done it before, we can do it again. So what is net neutrality? Well, it's pretty straightforward. That means that any ISP, whether it's Comcast, Verizon, Time Warner, Armstrong, whatever you have in your area, they cannot treat, say, Hulu any different than they can Netflix. Even if they have, say, a controlling share in Hulu, they have to still treat Netflix just the same for things like bandwidth, for example, latency. Everything has to remain straight across the board. However, without net neutrality, well, they can do what they want. Maybe they do have a controlling share in Hulu. Well, guess what? You can watch 4K there because the bandwidth is provided, but you can't watch 4K on Netflix because that bandwidth is restricted. Or maybe they cut it all the way down to 720p, or maybe they get rid of it completely in your area because it doesn't agree with them. They can also have things like snuffing out freedom of speech, for example. Maybe political views are a certain way for one company and they don't like the way a certain site is treating that political view. Well, they can pretty much cut it out. They can throttle it. They can cut bandwidth down heavily. They can make it so that only 100 visitors can go there a day, or not at all. And that's what we're running into right now with the repeal of an act that protects net neutrality pretty much coming up now, at least the date for their attempt to do it. There's a lot of people online who are very worried about what could happen with the internet. So let's talk about the purported cons to the entire thing. These are, of course, presented more than likely from the ISP's standpoint, their viewpoint anyway. And the first one is no network innovation. They say that if they cannot charge companies more money for heavy bandwidth, like a Netflix, for example, I'm using Netflix a lot, but just as an example, they cannot build up their network further. They can't replace these super archaic copper lines that exist over here in my area for Comcast, for example, or in Verizon's words, they cannot expand Fios further into my area because Netflix is causing this issue where Netflix will use a ton of bandwidth, but they're charged the same amount for that bandwidth as, say, Wikipedia. And this is actually, I think, a pretty bad example because, well, are we really led to believe here that ISPs are poor and broke and unable to advance their services the way they are now? I think that's a bad excuse for why net neutrality should be repealed, but let's go further here. The next one is objectionable material. According to them, if there is no net neutrality in place, at least something that protects it, they can block objectionable content that they believe is objectionable. That, of course, comes down to things like pornography or violence or anything like that. Something that they deem as not appropriate for the internet. And again, this is where it kind of comes into place. How they deem as not appropriate, not how you deem it, how they deem it. So in that case, if they don't like, again, this is coming back to free speech, if they don't like the way a website is presenting something, or maybe it's a certain type of pornography that's maybe not illegal, but they don't like it, they think it's not appropriate, they will block it. You cannot go to it. And that's just the way it is. I guess you'll come up to a stop sign or something that's like, sorry, it's been blocked by your ISP. There you go. That of course is something that they say they would do, but would they really? The next one is my favorite. This is probably the best con that the ISP presents, and that's no free internet access. So according to them, if they can charge more money for Netflix, they could present free internet to everyone. Like things like you could go to, say, Wikipedia or Facebook for free without an internet contract. And to that I say, are you serious? Do you really want us to believe that you would start providing people with free access to Facebook, something that a lot of people get addicted to, and they would gladly pay the $80 to $100 a month for internet? At least in my area, it's $80 to $100. Do you really think you're going to provide that for free? No, because a lot of people might not even care about something like Netflix or anything else, and they just want Facebook. You're not going to say, oh, cool, you don't have to pay any more money. Now you can just go to Facebook, Google, and Wikipedia and anything like that for free. Don't worry about it. Come on. I think at this point the pros are pretty obvious. If net neutrality is there, everything is treated the same across the board, whether it's any type of website like Wikipedia, streaming service like Netflix, Hulu, download services, anything. It's all treated the same. So now I ask you, with those pros and cons presented to you, which way do you want to go? Do you want to fill out a quick form and say, I need net neutrality still in place because it's unfair if it's taken away, or it could damage my online experience? Because keep in mind, this is only going to affect you, the consumer. It's not going to affect the ISP. Well, it would affect the ISP in a good way. They will get more money because they need more money, but they will. They will act on this instantly. Even if they say they'll be morally conscious about everything, I mean, let's be realistic. If you put that much money in front of a corporation and say, hey, like let's say Netflix is like, hey, we want pretty much control over all the high bandwidth and you can't give any to Hulu, Amazon Prime, or anything, and they put a pile of cash in front of Comcast so all Comcast users are not going to be able to access Hulu or Amazon Prime, well, Comcast is going to take it. They're a corporation. It's almost their obligation to take it to investors or their employees, because they could probably pay their employees more, although they might not. But if you are interested in signing a quick form, sending it off to the FCC division and saying, hey, we need the Net Neutrality Act to stay in place. It needs to be protected. Very simple. There is a link in the description you can go to. It takes no time at all. battleforthenet.com. And you can put your name in the hat saying, don't do this. We need net neutrality to be fair across the board. Me personally, I've already signed it there and several other places. So I am pretty much all in on this, and I want net neutrality to stick around. I think the pros for net neutrality well outweigh the purported cons that have obviously been provided by ISPs that is more good faith when you look at it, because those are things we'll probably never actually see, except in their balance sheet when they present it to investors at the end of the quarter. And that's it, guys. The best thing you can do right now is share it with everyone you know, whether it's offline or online. Make a video if you can. Even if you have a webcam and you have 2 subscribers, it's worth making a video. Make a shout on Twitter. You know, make a big stink of it everywhere, because the government needs to know that this is not good for us, the consumer, us, the people. Thank you so much for watching, and here's hoping net neutrality is still around after next week.